Hi, and welcome to an episode of the JetRails podcast. I'm Robert, your host, and today we're going to be talking all about Meet Magento New York. We've got a great guest with us. Marsha, would you do the honor of introducing yourself?
Hello, Robert. It is good to finally be talking with you. I know I kept you waiting a while, haven't I?
Well, this event has been on the schedule for a while, and I've been very excited to talk about it because, there hasn't been an in-person Magento gathering like this in North America. Certainly in the United States in a very, very long time. So
Exactly.
I think that it's going to be well worth the wait.
I cannot wait. Yes. Not too far away now.
Good. Well, I've got a piece of housekeeping that I have to ask. First off, is it Meet Magento New York? Is it Meet Magento New York City? So are we going with MMNY this year, MMNYC? I want to make sure I get this right.
That is a good question. So our official hashtag is MM22NYC. I tend to be a little lazy, and when I refer to the event in general, it's MMNY. I should stick with MMNYC, but yeah. Um, I'm always trying to make sure people include that on their social media posts, but MMNYC it should be.
Well, you really went for a beautiful venue in Manhattan, so may as well get the city in there, right?
There you go.
Uh,
There you go.
as a former New Yorker, the difference is noted. No, I'm very excited. It's a venue I haven't been to in a while, and it's a really great one.
Yeah.
Before we get too deep into talking about the event itself, I always like to ask guests about the companies that they're with, and in this case, so you work with a team called Technolabs. Can you tell us a little bit about how that company got its name?
Absolutely. So I have been with Krish for about 2 years now. Time flies. It's
Time
been fun.
flies. Yeah.
It has been amazing. It's a massive company. It's global. We have a footprint in the US, UK, UAE, and India. But with such a distributed team, I have to say it's pretty interesting. But Krish Krish is actually the name of our CEO's son, and it is quite a prestigious name. So there's a whole series of movies, very well-known movies of that name. So I guess we're just the Hollywood of development agencies. Yeah.
It's funny. I know a few Krishes myself in the industry.
Right.
Some of which will probably wind up tagging to ask, if their father owns Krish Technolabs. But now looking beyond that, obviously you've been part of the Magento ecosystem for some time, and involved with the Magento Association, with other Magento events. How did you first get involved with helping to run, organize, plan, produce events like this one in particular? How did that come about?
That was purely a chance meeting, and I am so glad it happened. So I think it was back in 2015, or it might have been 2016. I took a trip to Meet Magento Vietnam. I'm not sure if we've ever spoken about this, Robert, but I previously lived and worked in Vietnam. So I was just ecstatic to go back again. Um, I had not been back to Vietnam for some time. Another piece of our history, which I'm sure you already know, is that the current Magento Association started out as the Meet Magento Association. And the president back then, at the time of the event I went to, was Thomas Golitz. So I was really glad to spend much of the after party with Thomas. It was a great intro to his vision for MMA, so the Meet Magento Association and community events. We spoke about Meet Magento New York. I was really keen to work with him on it. Coincidentally, it needed a new home, so it was great timing. And Thomas is still a very dear friend. So I've been involved with MMNY, or as you pointed out, I should be saying MMNYC, which is quite a mouthful, since 2017 as a host. But I attended MMNYC since 2015 and 16. but just a host since 2017. But keep in mind that Meet Magento Events, they are part of an international series of events. They're all under the umbrella of the Magento Association, which welcomes new members, by the way. MagentoAssociation.org/join is where you can sign up. But I've been a part of the community and been at events around the world. So as I said, Meet Magento Vietnam, also Netherlands, Germany, Greece, Romania, Poland, UK, Baltics. There's a lot of them. Riga, Spain, Bangkok,
Wow.
Singapore, Indonesia, Brazil, China, and of course, India. And I've spoken at some of them. So, I have to say, it's more amazing when you're a part of the host community. It adds another level of this strong connection to the Magento community. It's been quite a journey.
So I was writing an article over the last couple of weeks about the latest Magento version releases, and I was listing out, as I was writing about Meet Magento New York, some of these others around the world. And when you see them all lined up, because normally I see it on a calendar where, okay, there's a couple of them coming up next month or something, but when you actually look at this long list in any given year, and obviously, things change, that, some of them happen more frequently in some places. And it's amazing, just how interwoven these local communities are, these regional communities are. Getting back to New York, uh, that event started back toward, was it, you said 2015?
I think it might have been 20. Yeah, it was 2015. I was thinking 2014, but I think 2015 was the first time around.
Yeah. And, you know, I guess for the US, that was probably prime territory. That in terms of getting merchants and others in the community together, it's an easy place to get to and from. Lots of large venues, but it probably started out a little bit smaller.
Yeah,
From what sort of, how did this particular event start, and how would you say it's evolved through the years?
that's an interesting story. So we've spoken a bit about the Meet Magento Association, and that was started by Thomas Fleck. My understanding was the very first Meet Magento event. Now, this is depending on who you ask. So some say it was Germany in 2009, but there's a debate about whether that was the Netherlands. But the first Meet Magento event, that was 2009, preceded the formal start of the MMA, the Meet Magento Association. So I think it formally became a company in something like 2015. Um, Thomas's goal was one Meet Magento event in a country. And what he wanted to see was bringing the community together at events. And they had to be events for the community, hosted by the community. And I'm really grateful to both Thomas Fleck and Thomas Golitz for getting this started. And it's incredible that we keep it growing, right? We keep it going and growing year after year. So our good friend Ignacio Risco at Interactive 4, he was the first host of Meet Magento New York. He managed the 2015 event and 2016, and I started in 2017.
Wow. Well, at some point we should move the venue to Miami, do it in the winter, and
There you
I think
go.
that we'll start to see, a whole other attendance. But that's interesting. I didn't recall that it started out really as one per country, but that makes perfect sense. And it also sort of makes sense why there were other events happening like Mage Titans or Mage X or things that might have been under different banners for the community, but happening, in the same country. So,
Right.
uh,
And it's not just about, another event. I was reading off this long list of events. I know all of these hosts or organizers personally. They are very personal events. They cater for the local needs and helping the community in that country grow. So it's a little more than yet another event in a series. It's
that
wonderful.
it is.
Hmm.
Absolutely. I haven't attended quite as many of the Meet Magento New Yorks as you have, but as a multi-year attendee, I can say for sure that absolutely helps foster community. And that's what Magento has always been so good at. Now, these events typically, from my memory, they have more than one track.
Mhm.
Can you tell us a little bit about what to expect this year?
Absolutely. So we have 3 tracks, and that's the way we have run the event since 2017. There's business, technical, and the solutions track. For the business and technical tracks, we invite submissions. So anyone can submit, including new speakers and seasoned speakers. And each year we have an, an overwhelming response on speaker requests. We usually get something in the region of 3 times as many submissions as there are opportunities to speak. So you can imagine, um, we really do our best at a fair selection and setting up a great lineup. But the most difficult part is turning down really, really great talks.
So, who ultimately makes those choices? I mean, is it you that they send the envelope stuffed with cash to make sure that their talk gets chosen? How does the process actually work?
If there are envelopes of cash, no, we do it. Our process, we set up an independent committee. So there's usually about 4 to 6 on that committee, and there are people outside of the host company. So there were no members of Krish on that committee. There are people in the community that are well known and that are skilled at selecting talks for the business and technical tracks. They receive anonymized data. So they independently provide ratings. Each reviewer cannot see the ratings of other reviewers. We combine those ratings, and we do our best at coming up with the best agenda. And again, as I said, the toughest part is having to send those rejection emails. And we're only limited by the number of spots we can accommodate in a day. And if you're familiar with the history of Meet Magento New York, we tried doing the event over a day and a half. And we really didn't see as great a turnout in the second day, partly because we have too good an after party. Partly because, when there's a half a day, people have flights to catch. So one day it is, and we have the awful task of turning down a number of talks.
Yeah, I mean, even for people commuting to commute back into Manhattan for a half day, if they've already met with the sponsors and caught some of the major talks and things and got to network and things, yeah, I could see that that could be difficult because New York is such a commuter, region aside from all the people coming into town. So actually, that leads me to ask, look, when we had Magento Imagine, people were coming from all over the world. And so that was the big event. And certainly, all the Meet Magento localized events around the world, I wasn't at all of them, but I'll say that they were dwarfed by the main Magento Imagine annual event. Without that draw, I know that there's, Adobe Summit, but without a Magento Imagine specifically, do you anticipate more people coming from overseas or even further distances within the United States to be able to connect as a community?
Absolutely. Absolutely. This is what we've all been waiting for, right? In person events, face to face networking. It has been too long. Virtual events and virtual happy hours were just amazing at a time when we really needed it. And they have their place. They still do. Um, Meet Magento New York has always been an international event. And we've seen a tremendous response from sponsors and attendees. They just do not want to miss out on this opportunity to be a part of what is an extremely popular event. Let's remember, Meet Magento New York is the only dedicated Magento or Adobe Commerce event in the US. We are ready to reignite and welcome Magento enthusiasts from around the world. It's time to see old friends again. It's time to welcome newcomers. It's the reunion we've all been waiting for, and I think it's going to be massive.
Well, tell me a little bit about these attendees, because I have from previous years an idea of what I'm used to, a mix of merchants and developers and tech partners and agencies and all sorts of other people in between. Um, is this more or less a who's who of the Magento community and the Adobe Commerce community at large? How would you look at the overall attendance? Is it basically whoever gets tickets before you run out, because of a cap that you have, or is it are we talking about a few hundred people, or what can you tell us so far? Because I know the ticket sales are still ongoing, and a lot of the ticket sales usually, especially for events that aren't overpriced, like this one is really well priced for attendees. I know that a lot of sales usually happen in the last weeks.
Yep, exactly. In the last 2 weeks. So our last event was virtual. So I can't remember the exact number. We saw somewhere in the region of 800 to 1,000 registrants. The necessity for virtual events meant tech advancements for virtual events. So this year, while we host an in-person event, there's also a virtual platform, but I'll come back to that. Let me go back to who the registrants are. So we work really hard to try to reach the entire ecosystem. So usually we see in the region of about, I don't have my notes in front of me, around 25% store owners, so merchants, around the same on tech providers and like yourself, Robert, somewhere in that region on SIs or development agencies. So it really is a few marketing folks. It really is a good event, no matter who you are in the ecosystem. And so we're trying this year to help you find those people, to help you find in advance who you'll be networking with. And one day, restricting an event to one day and having to meet all of those people in one day is tough. So we took a look at the virtual platforms that were out there, and we have both this year. Talks are in person, but there's a virtual platform that will help a lot with networking. You can search the attendees right now, provided they've created a profile on the virtual platform. So pretty much you can register right now, buy a ticket for Meet Magento New York, and from a networking perspective, you can start attending right now. And
you can figure out which of the other attendees you want to connect with, and sponsors and that sort of thing.
Right.
Spoiler,
you can search for attendees. You can put in keywords. You find who you're looking for, and then figure out who you need to connect with. And you might get a few responses. You might get some outreach you don't particularly want. You don't have to respond to all of it. But I think having that opportunity to connect is amazing, and being able to do it beyond a day is incredible. Also, we have access to the platform for a full year. So you can continue using the platform beyond September 23. We're a couple of months into the agreement right now. Still, you have extended use of the platform.
That's awesome. So that, after everybody's done with after partying and everything else and gets through a weekend and so on and so forth, when they do get back to their desks and they want to still follow up with some people that they didn't get to connect with or only got to meet briefly or whatever the case may be, they've got access to that. That's nice.
Right.
I'll say that I go to a lot of trade shows, at least by my standards. And that one of the things that I like about this particular event is that you really can meet a lot of the attendees, get some quality conversations going, that there are events that I feel like it's one huge mosh pit and it's very hard from start to finish. And there are a lot of people there that if you're focused on an ecosystem like Magento, that are focused on other ecosystems, and that, that you can spend a lot of time, running into people that really don't have the answers that you're looking for, don't have the focus that you're looking for. So particularly nice to be able to have individualized events like this as well as part of that mix, where you can really hone in and really share, or talk about some shared experiences, shared challenges. So that's so good. Well, we've talked a little bit about the attendees. What can you tell me about the sponsors? Is it similarly an interesting mix between payments and sales tax and hosting and all the usual suspects? A few agencies in there.
we were really glad to see some of the same sponsors. A lot of our regular supporters were back again and so eager to be a part of this. Vertex is there again this year, not only our headline sponsor, they are sole supporters of a 4-hour after party. And they're incredibly engaged, as are PayPal and Adobe. It's been great this year to work hand in hand with Adobe. Neetu Walker, she's been great. We've seen her at a few events. She's been incredibly helpful. It's motivating to see that enthusiasm come back again, right? There was one first for me. This is the first year that I saw headline sponsorships sell out immediately, right at the get-go. So that's been fantastic. Then Swift Otter and Jet Rails. I'm not just saying this. Robert was right up there amongst the very first supporters. We appreciate that. As were Rightpoint. I mentioned Swift Otter, Jarvis, and Dot Digital. There's others that you will meet. There's Hoover, Image Engine, Wigzo, Gorgeous, Checkout.com, Envision, Aureate Labs, Gorgeous, Klaviyo. I'm hoping I haven't forgotten anyone. Avalara, and they're still signing up.
More on the way.
If they haven't already, it's on me because my inbox is a little scary right now. But I'll get to you.
Yeah, well, I'll say, from our team that we're proud and happy to support that. I don't write a lot of code, and so as much as it's not, Robert sponsoring, it's Jet Rails. It always feels good to be able to be, part of that process of getting involved with community events and supporting the community. So that's always good. And so good to hear you're still signing up sponsors. If anybody is a little late to the party, they can that they can get in there. And it's also it's so talking about people coming internationally, hearing that Hoover is sponsoring and their team's all in Europe and some names like that's always exciting. Again, back to that Magento Imagine, bringing everyone together kind of a feel.
Exactly. There is a limit though, Robert. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. So we can still accept a few more sponsors. There's a bit of a limit that's only dictated by the size of the exhibit hall. But so we can accommodate maybe 35 booths, but there are some sponsorships that don't include a booth. So there are mixed opportunities. At this point, if folks need a booth, feel free to talk with me. We can still accommodate a few more. And the goal is to grow Meet Magento New York and use that as a channel to grow our community. For next year, I have my eye on an even larger venue. I can't wait. So I'm really excited to see the turnout, September 23. Yep. But a quick note on the venue that we chose. So when I speak about larger venue, it's not just a larger venue. The one thing that I don't see in some of the massive venues is that the theaters, so all of the speaking rooms and exhibit halls, are kind of distant from each other. So what we were looking for is that they're all on the same level. They're all interleading. And no venue is perfect, but when you arrive at Pier 60, that's where you're heading to. It's a little odd that you have to walk through a parking lot, but what that also means is that there's parking right at the front door. And, I'll take odd over convenience. And the fact that everything's on the same level, so there's a natural flow of people. There's an outdoor area, so once you enter into the front door, there's all of your theaters, the exhibit hall, and a lovely outdoor area overlooking the Hudson. So I think it'll be fun. Yeah.
Awesome. Now, so you've got this big venue, this big event to manage. You look pretty relaxed considering, but I know that there's a lot going on here. When if I were to look at the logistics for this particular event, I know the Magento Association has some role in these events, of course, as you talked a little bit about, and your team is handling a lot, and that you've got all these sponsors and others involved. How about volunteers? I know that sometimes there's some room available for people to lend a hand.
Absolutely. So it is meant to be a community event. Krish has managed everything so far with the help of volunteers, like we said, on talk selection, as well as very engaged community members like yourself who are helping us encourage sponsors. That's fantastic to help us get the word around. We do welcome other volunteers on the day of the event to help with various roles like managing the registration and the theaters. There is a call for volunteers on social media, and I really hope we see greater community participation. You know, I often have people ask me how they can manage an event like this. And I'm not sure that anyone who has not managed an event understands just how much work goes into the preparation. I know you get it, Robert. But, if
It's
you'd
been
like
years
to
since
be
I
a
did
part,
one, and this is big.
yep, if you'd like to be a part of the core team without having to deal with 100% of the detail that goes into it, you do have that chance. um, just let me know how you'd like to help. On the social media post, there's details on what positions we're looking for people to help with. And yeah, we hope to get more interest in that.
Awesome. And speaking of contributions, I know sometimes with some of these events, there's a hackathon that's attached to it for developers to work on some coding. I, I don't recall seeing anything about one this year, but I figured I'd ask.
No, not this year. So I don't feel like it was really well attended previously. So we held off this year. Um, and, we're just getting the in person events back up and running. We are open to it in the future. If we have a large number of requests, but I think for this year, we have enough to focus on. I'm sure we'll have an amazing
Absolutely.
event.
No, in an open source community, contribution credits help. Again, I wouldn't have been very helpful at a hackathon either way. At DrupalCon this year, I was volunteering, and they gave me some contribution credits for volunteering, which I think the Magento community should adopt because I think it's a really great
Yeah.
model.
Yeah.
But
I'd be really interested in hearing from people if they'd like to volunteer, how they would like to be acknowledged. So far, volunteers would attend at no cost. Then you also you get to pick a role that you would have been involved in anyway. So if you want to hang out on the speaking tracks all day, then the track manager will be great. Of course, during breaks, you get to spend time in the exhibitor hall with everyone during meals. You also get to join the pre-party and the after party. So there's lots of great networking opportunities. We acknowledge that contribution of volunteers in our thank you note on stage. I think it's on our website as well. If there are other ideas on acknowledgement, as I said, let me know how else we can offer points or whatever that is, and we're open to ideas.
Now, we've been talking pre-party, after party, and I caught that Vertex is buying us all drinks for the after party for about 4 hours. So very generous of them. Can you tell me anything about and our audience about the pre-party? So that I imagine that's Thursday night before the Friday all-day conference and after party. Is that also at a nearby venue?
It is. So the pre-party is in Midtown, but not too far away. That's September 22nd, 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. That's the tradition of Meet Magento New York, right? 4-hour party. So there's a 4-hour pre-party at Valbella at the Park rooftop, 7 to 11 p.m. And that's sponsored by Adobe. So thanks, Adobe. It will be fun. I kind of hummed and hawed a little. I don't know about a 4-hour party ending at 11 p.m. the night before we open our doors at 7:30 a.m. So pace yourself, folks. Please pace yourselves.
It's a very New York schedule. It's the city that never sleeps. We just have to hope people, if they do go to sleep, they wake up.
And hey, from what I've seen of this community, we party hard and we play hard. So I fully expect all of you, bright and bushy-tailed, 7:30 a.m.
And there will be photo evidence, right? So speaking of which, I saw on your social media for the event that that there's a photo contest. If people have, I guess, photos, videos, whatever they might have from previous years, to post it, and to hashtag it and all that jazz. I hope we
Oh,
see some
yeah.
fun stuff.
Please do it. There's Amazon vouchers. What I think something like $200. All you have to do is post your pictures from previous events. I know you have them. We have a lot. Um, so yeah, waiting to see those pictures on social media, and of course who the winners are.
Well, you know, I
I
just
can
hope you
tell
have a
you
good
about
vacation
the
planned
after
for
party
after
too,
this.
Robert.
There's a lot going on.
Yes, yes. Should we talk about the after party a little? So yes,
Yeah, absolutely.
Vertex is sponsoring the after party. That's also 4 hours, 7 to 11 p.m. Again, that's at Slate. It's just, 5 avenues from our venue at Pier 60. It is a lovely venue. I've seen the pictures online. That's on our website as well. The menus for both the pre-party and after party will be on our sites, in case you're interested. And Slate for the after party has quite an excellent menu. There's salmon and steak and all things amazing, and 4 hours of an open bar, and lots of seating. It really will be a lot of fun. So I think people will enjoy it, especially after a long day. The official program is 8 a.m. until 6 p.m., but we thought we'd open the registration doors at 7:30, so we get folks in before breakfast starts in the exhibit hall at 8 a.m. At the end of the day, at 6 p.m., you get an hour to just refresh before the after party. I think it will be an incredible day.
Awesome. Um, yeah. Well, I'm now realizing when I'm going to be doing booth setup, so I think I'm going to convince someone else from the team to be the early right
I
now.
know, right?
I'm good as an early riser.
Yeah. Let me say
But
this. So
basically, I need to just plan the weekend to burn off some of the good drinks and the good food that you're
there you
talking
go.
about.
There you go. Yep. Um,
Uh,
I think
Very
it's good to
cool.
pack everything into a day, though. I think often, it's hard to take much dedicated time off of work, so one day just works perfectly. Um, Sponsors
Uh,
seem enthusiastic. I see the tickets rolling in. I love seeing that. I cannot wait. It's not too far away now.
Awesome. Well, I think we've given everyone a lot to think about and help them, in preparing for attending the event. Now, before we wrap up, any final thoughts, any last tips or ideas or shout outs or anything else that we didn't cover?
Oh, I have to say it's a huge thank you to my team at Krish. It's a lot of the cost is covered by sponsors. We all know this. It's a community event. It could not happen with all of our sponsors. I named them, a lot of them earlier. Thank you so much for helping us do this. Um, our sponsors cover pretty much all of the costs, or we hope so, of the day of the event. But by and large, there is months of work that
Yeah.
go into the preparation, into marketing, coordination, sponsorship. There are just so many tasks and roles, and we do our best. And all of that is covered by Krish. So thank you, team. You've been amazing. It's been a fun few months, and I know that we can't all wait. We all can't wait to just have a drink together and see each other face to face. All of these people go together to make a great event. It truly is a community event. And thank you, Robert, for having me on your show. Um, it
My
helps a lot,
pleasure. You
to let
We
people
brought
know
it
what's
back
happening.
out of break just for this. So this is the first episode we've had in a while. It's exciting for me to turn on the lighting and the mic and get it all going. We've got a lot of great content in the works. We're planning some great episodes for after Meet Magento New York. So very excited to be bringing this back, and we're doing some other updates to the podcast so people start to see some new things as we get into Q4. But um, you know, Marsha, absolutely a pleasure having you on today. And for those that haven't been part of organizing an event like this, especially in this kind of a venue with the pre-parties and after parties and all these things, that the budgets you could buy a nice house with. There's a lot of logistics. There's a lot happening between speakers and AV and sponsors and attendees and ticket sales and programs and schedules and all sorts of things in between. So my hat's off to you for taking it on and making sure that the community has this opportunity to reconnect in person. I know that for me, personally, it's exciting, and I know for a lot of other people, just as much, if not even more so. So thank you again, and look forward to having you on the podcast again sometime.
Absolutely. Take care, Robert.